Hello, good morning. Welcome, folks. We've got some people popping in still. So we're going to give it a couple minutes until we get started.
Jimmy, do you know if we sent Leah the Brushy Fork
Leah
invitation?
did Leah did get it, and Jamie is here from Brushy Fork. So it should be all right.
So Jamie, there may be a section whenever we talk about an email, and you would not have gotten that because Jamie would have filled that out yesterday.
And just so folks know, we are recording. I didn't intend to start it right off the bat, but that's what happened. So we are recording, just for your knowledge. All right. I think we can go ahead. I think we've got the majority of folks, so we can go ahead and start with introductions today. I think we can introduce ourselves, and I'm just going to keep it on the pictures here before I actually share the slideshow, just so we can see each other's faces. Or if you don't want to come off camera, you don't have to. So my name is Jimmy Owsley, and I work here at Mountain Association as our business support analyst. And I have been from the business support side, at least, kind of leading this transition over to Salesforce, which has been going on for maybe 8 months now. It's been going on for a while, so I'm excited to finally be at this point. I'm excited for you all to get here and learn the new system, and for the ways in which it'll help us all moving forward. But I don't want to make introductions too long. I'll pass it to the rest of our staff, and then if we could go around after that. I know it's always weird on Teams or Zoom to know where you are in line. So once we do, let's say we go Dejan, Bailey, Donna, and then I'll go ahead and call on folks to do some introductions. So go ahead, Dejan.
Hi, I feel like I know most of you all on this call today. You all are my lovely consultants. I'm Dejan. I am the support specialist. I've been in this role title like a week, but it's by action, I'll say, for almost 2 years now. So I'm becoming very familiar with everything. And yeah, so that'll be my introduction. Nice seeing you guys.
And I am Bailey Richards. I am the new Director of Business Support Services for Mountain Association. I just started in mid-July. So lots of new and changes going on here. Some of you all I have emailed because I have taken over Emily's clients with her leaving. And so we have meetings set up and things like that. And I'm really excited to get to know you all and get to know your projects and what you're working on. All right, I guess that's it for me at this point.
And I'm Donna Daniels. I'm the Chief Program Officer for Mountain Association and have been in this role now for about 7 months. And for a period of time after Kedeke left, for folks that knew Kedeke, then I was serving as kind of an interim director for business support services. And really haven't had a chance to meet a lot of you, but I do know some faces on the call. So it's good to see everybody.
Some very well, I would say.
Yes.
So next up, we'll go to Jean, Jamie, and Cindy. And if you don't mind, just share your name and your business and what your business does. I think that would be helpful. So go ahead, Jean.
Sure. Thanks, Jimmy. My name is Gene Daniels. I'm a CPA and I'm a QuickBooks Pro advisor, financial accountant. Have done that for a number of years, and I love working with startups and small business entrepreneurs who need some help with their books and getting their business side of their entrepreneurial endeavors going. So that's me.
Jane.
Jamie Gilbert.
Oh, we can't hear you, Jamie.
Very quiet over there. We can come back to you if you want.
You know.
It's just quiet. You could shout at us if you want to.
I think she's gonna put it in the chat.
There we go. Yep. And you're welcome to just, yeah, that's the other thing. On the last call, we just put stuff in the chat too. So you're welcome to put that information in the chat, Jamie. We'll go ahead and go to Cindy.
Good morning, everybody. My name is Cindy Hall with Positive Impact. I'm a business and leadership coach, speaker, and trainer, and a member of the John Maxwell leadership team. So I work with individuals and coaching, whether it's entrepreneurs or executives, helping people just get themselves out of their own way and taking those steps they know they need to take to move forward, but for whatever reason they procrastinate or maybe they don't know what direction to go in. So I help them move forward, and I do group coaching sessions and trainings, whether it's communications, leadership, problem solving, mindset, a lot of training sessions and speaking engagements as well. I'm a serial entrepreneur. So that gives me, twofold for working with entrepreneurs. I have a Kentucky Proud product. It's a chai product that is served in coffee shops throughout central Kentucky.
If we were in person, I would have asked you to bring some to share. Let's do next. I'm just going on my screen. So we'll have Jordan, Dominique, and then Lydia.
Yes, I'm Jordan Young. I'm a graphic designer. I just have my own business doing graphic design and website design as well. And then I'm a teaching artist through a few other organizations as well that go into the public schools.
Hi, folks. I'm Dominique Waite. Sorry, I'm working on the road. I've got a kid doing college visits, so I'm on the laptop with no camera, but wanted to make sure I made the meeting. I am a CPA working out of Lexington, Kentucky for Blue & Co. I've been doing this for 30 years in our CAD and tax department. And I'm a QuickBooks Top 100 Pro advisor and also have owned my own businesses. So I work a lot with all levels of small business.
Thank you, Dominique. And before you mute, where are you today?
Right now I'm in Alabama.
Awesome. Okay. Thanks, Dominique. Let's go ahead and go to Lydia, Angie, and then Matt.
Hi, I'm Lydia. I am a website designer and developer, and I also work with a lot of nonprofits and colleges on curriculum design and strategic planning. That's what my degrees are in, and I really enjoy it. Yeah, that's me. I've got sick children at home, so if you see kids come in, that is what's up. And one just came in. But so website design and development, mostly working with WordPress and also just trying to figure out like smooth systems for people. And I am very excited about the Salesforce move because I'm a Salesforce developer and I used to work for them. So I'm super excited that we're moving over because I'm a little bit of an evangelist. So I'm very excited for this.
Hi, I'm Angie LeBlanc. I am based out of Indianapolis, Indiana, but a few weeks ago, I got the opportunity to come down and tour Eastern Kentucky, and I'm absolutely in love with your little part of the world. My allergies, not so much. Kentucky did try to murder me while I was there, but I survived. So my consulting work is kind of all things businessy, but that can be for-profit or nonprofit institutions. So I do a lot of employee training, process design and implementation, capacity building, basically anything to help business owners or nonprofits do the most with what they have.
Thanks, Angie. And I think I said Matt next. Is that right, Matt?
Yeah, okay. My name is Matt Holbrook. I own InFocus Media. So I help businesses with marketing, social media, video production, photo, product placement, things like that.
Thank you. And then last three, we've got Jason, Tim, and Hannah.
Yes, how you doing? Jason Hoskins. I am in London, Kentucky, about 35 miles south of Berea, Berea graduate. And I am a husband, father of four, and co-owner of Symbiosis Media. We go S Media for short, which is a digital marketing company. So all things digital marketing, helping businesses market and startup, web, social media, graphic design, anything you can print. So yeah, that's us.
Thanks, Jason.
I'm Tim Monroe. I'm here in Berea. I launched my own consulting business, I don't know, a year and a half ago or so. I've got a long career in education and nonprofits and higher ed, and I've run a few development shops. And so I mostly help people with fundraising, but then I also find out that they really want help just talking, EDs especially, talking about leadership and decision making and just somebody to support them. So my business is very originally named Tim Monroe Consulting, and so that's me.
Thanks.
Right. Is that for me now? My name's
Yep.
Hannah Grossclose. I own Hinge Creative Co. Totally unrelated to Hinge, the dating app. Unless you've had a positive experience, we will claim it. But we are a branding house in Athens, Georgia. And we primarily work with women-led businesses. We do branding, graphic design, website design, and content creation for anywhere that needs content that looks and sounds pretty. So
Thanks, Hannah. Thank you all for doing that. I know that's not something we do a lot at Mountain Association or in business support, is having you all on a call together like this. So really appreciate you taking the time. I think it helps you get to know each other, helps us get to know you. And this is something that we hope to do more of in the future. I know the subject of this training is Salesforce, but one of the things we're kind of trying on is improved communication with our consultants. And this is one of those methods, right? We have a lot of, as you heard, as folks shared, a wide range of subject matters and types of projects and consultants in different places. And so communication can be challenging. We want that communication to go from you all to us as we hear about projects and your feedback and clients, and then from us to you all. And so a lot of that has been handled, and we'll continue to handle one-on-one and be project specific, but we want to make sure that we're creating opportunities for this kind of communication in the future. So thank you all for joining. I'm going to go ahead and share a slideshow now. And we'll start with Salesforce. We'll talk a little bit about just general updates after that. And let's see, I'm going to start this at the very beginning, and I'll also share screen so you can see the Salesforce portal also. All right, so welcome, Business Support Services. You know the training well, unless you hopped on late. The training is being recorded, so just FYI about that. And this is our team. We did introductions. But there we are again. Welcome, Bailey. Bailey said she's our new director. You'll probably be hearing from her now and then too. And I know she'll want to develop that relationship with you all. We're excited to have her and have her experience supporting businesses here at Mountain Association. So overview of the consulting process is really where I wanted to start. I know, when we were building out the Salesforce portal for clients and consultants, we kind of had to figure this part out first. We have different programs. We've got a consulting services program. We've got a Biz Ready program. We've got a Spark program. But they kind of all follow the same path in a lot of ways. And so we had to look at that path and then replicate that path in Salesforce for you all to follow. So as you know, we start with an initial contract with the consultant. So you all, for the most part, unless you're brand new, have a contract with us. We are going to revise those today just by putting them into Salesforce. There's not really a lot of changes there, but it's an opportunity for you to update your rates and address and all that kind of stuff. Jordan, I see you saying that you can't see the slideshow. Is anybody else having trouble? Okay. Unfortunately, no one else is having that issue. I am going to I can keep talking. I'll stop sharing and reshare just to see what happens. But yeah, the initial contract, we think of that as the building block of everything else. And that was really helpful as we broke things down for Salesforce. It has your, like as I mentioned, your rates and how you work as a consultant and how we work together. So that's where we're starting today. Dejan did send emails to everybody. that has the link to go ahead and get your new updated contract started. And you're welcome to follow along by doing that with us today. So the contract contains that information. Then you, at some point, you get a client that's interested in you as a consultant. You do an assessment with them. And if you're moving forward, you draft a scope of work. That scope of work pulls in information such as your rates into that document. You work through that, get through an approvals process to kind of create the project and get things started, which takes you to actually beginning the work of the project, however many hours you've projected for that. The work begins and we do monthly invoicing. Dejon's going to talk about invoicing a little bit later, but that'll be very similar, just in a new format on Salesforce, but that goes through an approval process as well. So again, if you're new, the process is you submit an invoice, we take a quick look at it, the client reviews it, say, yes, this work was done, and then we go through budget approval on our side so that we can get that paid. So all those things are kind of built into the new system, especially when it comes to timing and notifications and such. From there, we also require monthly reports. You'll see that in contracts. All your contracts already say we need a monthly report of what's going on. There hasn't really been a great mechanism for doing that. In the new portal, when you submit an invoice, it's just going to ask for details on each line item. And that can be, if you fill it out to give us some detail on it, that can be your monthly report. If it's a little light, you may hear from a staff person that just wants to know a little bit more about what was going on. And that's helpful for us because all of this data that we collect, and you're probably like, why are these projects so different from all of our other projects? Why does Mountain Association require so much information? It's really because of our grant funders. And so we have grant requirements that we need to fulfill. And so that's 90% of the requirements that we have stipulate from that point. All right, so confirmation of deliverables, that's the end of the project, and then project closure. So we'll take a closer look at those as we move. Okay, so why the move to Salesforce? Thank you, Lydia, for giving that glowing introduction. But if you may be a little bit familiar with our past or current really programs that we're using. So we have something called the dashboard that we orient consultants to when they start with us. And that's where it's been the project management platform that we've been using for maybe 10 years. It is clunky, I guess, is the best word that I've come up for it. It is highly customized each time you create a project. There's a lot of work that goes into the dashboard. So that exists. But then everything that happens in the dashboard, we duplicate into other places. So we duplicate into Excel. We copy the file and put it in SharePoint. We do an approval flow through Microsoft Flows. And then we ultimately end up putting all of that information back into Salesforce because our fundraising team also already uses Salesforce. So we're taking all of that and putting it into this one final source. So the easier solution for us was to say, what if that final source was the source that you all already inputted data to from the beginning and that our clients interacted with from the beginning? So lots of time and then the issues of efficiency and even accuracy when you have that many different breaking points. So this should help with all of those things. This is phase 3. So as I mentioned, lending I mentioned fundraising, but fundraising and lending moved to Salesforce already in the past. So this is our third program to move on to that platform, which will be nice internally for us too. New to that, I mean, the old dashboard never had anything to do with contracts. So there's also pieces of our process that we're moving into Salesforce because we can integrate them. So you'll see that as well. And then, as I mentioned earlier, the notifications. So just like the dashboard, there's going to be places to do comments, and they call it chatter, but for consultants to post a comment, clients to post a comment, for us to post something. And there will be email and text message notifications associated with it. So it has been a huge endeavor. It's been a big project. And Joe's not on this call, but Joe is our IT director, and we just have a lot of thankfulness for his work and dedication to this project, along with our design team, CTG Craftsman. So how is this going to work is another question. I assumed you all would think right off the bat, you've already got projects in motion. So what happens to those projects? Our goal is to finish out as many of those projects on the dashboard as possible. So we want to give that around 3 months to go ahead and wrap up the old projects, the ones that are continuing. But we wanted to do this training now because Salesforce is just about ready to go, and new projects will start on Salesforce. So it'll be, I know there's some kind of technical word for what kind of transition that is, but basically it's a gradual transition where just old stuff will finish out and the new stuff will start fresh. Now, if we get to the point 3 months from now where a project is still on hold or it's clinging on, we just need to put the dashboard to bed, we'll address that then. Okay. The next point is for me to show you the portal. Do you all have anybody have questions at this point? We will do a full Q&A at the end, but while I'm switching, just curious if anybody has thoughts or questions. That's good. All right. Sharing screen. Okay, does everybody, let's see how this goes. Everybody see my screen over here? Good.
Yes.
So this is when I'm already logged into the portal. We've tried to keep this simple because we want clients to know immediately, and I can zoom in a little bit here, what they have to do that day when they log in. They get that notification, they come in and they know immediately, here's my task. We didn't want a lot of extra clutter in here. So you'll see it's got these tabs. This is the consultant view right now. If I'm the consultant, this is what I'm looking at. And so it's just home, invoices, contracts, and resources, and basically the same thing up here. Just home and log out. This home page, it matters to you all because it'll have multiple projects on it. So if you have 2 or 3 going on at the same time, you can go to whichever project you want to look at. But it consolidates all of your tasks up here at the top. So this consultant has a monthly invoice to submit. So it's just a reminder. You can see it was triggered on the 15th of the month, or to be submitted by the 15th of the month, which we ask for all of our invoices. Again, we'll talk about that more later. And you can see that they need to schedule an assessment. So I can go ahead and click into these and view a little bit more details about the project. So we have the project information. We have the stage that the project is at. So whether it's gone from applied to a requested scope of work to an approved scope of work to being ready for closeout, you'll see those stages there. The thing that I'm maybe the most excited about are these totals, because that has been something we've done manually in a spreadsheet. And I'll just say, based on a conversation I had this morning, we haven't necessarily kept up with those very well. So this is going to do that math for us based on the invoice you submit. So when you submit an invoice, it takes away from the budget total. When you submit an invoice, you put hours on there. It takes away from the hours total. And so we can see what was approved and what's remaining. And so you can see what's approved and what's remaining. You've got typical your contact information in here, who's the Mountain Association point person for that contract, all that stuff. If you come in here and you don't have a notification to submit an invoice, let's say you just wanted to submit one mid-month, it wasn't even the invoicing time, you have this option to just click submit project invoice down at the bottom. I know I point that out because it's a little not obvious down there at the bottom. So I'll click that in a minute and we can go take a look. But you'll have files and you'll have the chatter over here. All right. And then up at the top, I told you there's invoices. Invoices, if you're familiar with Salesforce, will have list views. So you can look at approved invoices or all invoices. If you click in here, another common question that I get is what's the status of that invoice I submitted a couple weeks ago? Where is it hung up in the process? We have these approval stages in here. So you can see whether it's been submitted by you, whether it's been client approved, or whether it's been completely approved by Mountain Association. And so you can get a window into how far along that invoice is in the process. If you want to view your contract, you can view that. You may have more than one if you have like a special contract for a particular job. And then we have not filled this out yet, but we have resources we are going to put in the resources folder, which is just guides for how to do projects and any external resources that we want to provide. All right, coming back down to the project and that submit invoice button. If I click that, it takes me to this page. Actually, hold on. Actually, click it. This page. And we just ask that you clarify when you fill it out, whether it's a standard invoice or the final invoice. You know that all first invoices, if it's an assessment invoice, you get up to 5 hours for that invoice and we cover 100% of it. So the system will know that it's the first invoice for the project and it'll assign 100% Mountain Association responsibility at the bottom. If not, if it's just one of these other ones, it'll do that split according to the approved split on the scope of work. All right, but it already pulls in this other information. You don't have to enter that in. It shows you the hours and the budget, and then it updates those based on the information that you provide. So for example, if I plug in some research, some one-on-one coaching here with the client, and I'm just going to put a big number in there, 20 hours. We get our totals, subtotals, and then we actually see we're over budget. So that updated in real time to show where you would be left at the end of this invoice. And that would work the same for the number of hours. In addition to that, there's that item description that I was telling you about. This is the reporting piece. So just to describe what that item included, what was done in those 5 hours, a couple sentences is what I would say would be helpful. Although, use your discretion on what makes sense to plug in there. You're able to add items. So let's say you had 4 items on your invoice. You'll notice that there's not a date field on here. There's an invoice date and a service start date and end date. We still do ask that on your invoice file, your document, that you say what dates the service occurred on. But in terms of our system, it's going to get logged on that invoice or on the submission date, really. And then we have an option for travel charges, one-time charges, which is like for those of you that are designers, especially, where you can plug that information in if you bought a subscription or membership or plug-in. You'll plug that in there and upload receipts. Travel is calculated. So this is, if you're familiar with our contracting system, you know that the first hour of travel is considered a commute, so you don't get paid for that first hour of travel. But let's say there was 5 hours of travel. You'll see that there's 4 billable hours. This person charges $100 an hour, or at least their lower rate is $100 an hour, which means the travel rate is half of that. So the travel is $50 an hour. So they're going to get paid $50 an hour for 4 hours, $200. And then they're also going to get to plug in the mileage for that. So let's say they traveled 250 miles and they're going to get 175 for that. This rate option is just important if you're at the edge of a year or edge of a rate change when the IRS changes what the reimbursement rate is for mileage. So you want to choose that based on when you did the travel. So if you submitted this on January 2nd, but the mileage was done on December 31st, you'd want to click the rate that was for that appropriate year. I saw Dejan's hand go up, and then I saw Cindy's go up. So go ahead, Dejan.
Hi, I was just bringing attention to Lydia's question here. She asked, so are we loading a PDF of our invoices in this? And my understanding is not your PDF of the invoice, but supporting documentation. Okay, you do. Okay, this is
You
why I
do,
wanted
yep.
Jimmy to answer it. Yeah.
Yep. And so, yeah, I talked to our finance department about this the other day. Yeah, so this PDF invoice is still very important. That is what will actually be their documentation. When we get audited, they'll still have that invoice on file to say, here's what we paid, here's what the services are. This report, essentially, that you're filling out by plugging in these details just gets logged in our system, and it helps factor in the number of hours and the rates and all that kind of stuff. But yes, so the invoice document upload for the general invoice, and to Dejan's point, the supporting documents are here, where you choose for this one-time description, choose a file, or one-time
And the one-time charges would be where you would put those subscriptions, plugins, or let's say you need an hour of some other service that maybe you're contracting out. All of those one-time charges would be, subcontract, sorry. All of that would be in that one-time charge.
Yeah.
Build.
Or it's rare, but for certain programs, for somebody coming from out of state, maybe there was a hotel charge built into the contract. So that's where they would put their hotel receipt or something along those lines. Cindy.
Yes, I noticed that the 4 hours was used on the travel time. Is there a minimum for travel time that you get reimbursed? If it's 2 hours away, is there still reimbursement for the 2 hours, or how does that work?
Yeah, if it's 2 hours, you get billed for, or you're able to bill for the 1 hour because that 1 hour commute time. So I think if I'm understanding correctly, your question correctly, the answer would just be 1. Like if I plugged 1 in there, I'm going to get 0. But is that what you're asking?
I think I just didn't know if there was a minimum a number of hours to travel that you don't get reimbursed for.
Yeah,
So
go ahead, Dejan. Yeah.
So just to try to explain it, from what I'm hearing, I think maybe this is the correct answer. So Mountain Association doesn't pay for the first hour of travel. That is our commute time that we factor in. So anything over that hour of commute time would be at the travel rate. We pay for mileage, and then we also pay for time. So, you have to differentiate that. But so yeah, did that answer your question?
It did. Thank you.
Okay.
And there won't always be mileage or travel on a project. Some projects have travel and some projects don't. But that's a good thing to include in your scope of work. And that way, if there's any questions at that time at the beginning of a project, it can be worked out at that point too. All right.
Lydia asked.
Mm-hmm.
She has a question for reimbursement.
Yeah.
Or I'm sorry, Lydia, can you ask your question in verbal form? So I can make sure I understand.
Okay. So we run into some projects where a client has to purchase either their website hosting or domain, and they are signing an end user agreement that they're going to be good and not do bad things on the internet. And it needs to be signed by them, not by the consultant. And so that typically means unless you're sitting right there with them setting it up, they have to go through the process and follow tutorials of how to set it up and sign it and pay for it. And Keteke in those situations had said that the client needed to submit invoices or receipt, something like that, to Mountain Association, and the Mountain Association reimbursed them for it since it was their initial setup. So it wasn't the recurring, it paid for the first year, but not a recurring fee. And that's why it needed to be signed up underneath of that person's name. So like website hosting happens, every month or every year, and they would cover the first year of it.
Yeah.
So just trying to figure out, do I submit their invoice information for them, or do they still just send it over as an email? Like,
Yeah.
how does that work?
So I think probably since you had that conversation with Kediki, even while Kediki was here, I think our practice did change with that. Because for each client that would submit something, we had to get like a W-9. We had to like do a whole process with finance in order to reimburse that client. And so our preference became for the consultants to purchase that plugin, and then to transition all of those logins and admin credentials over to the client. And that way we were only paying the consultant for that.
Yeah, and let me explain a little background on that is
Yeah.
we have to be really careful in the way that we disperse this TA funding so that it does not look like we are unintentionally providing a grant to a business. And when we just cover the cost of a service like that, and we can't directly connect it to the TA, even though, you know, the paperwork doesn't look as connected to the TA as if it were submitted by the consultant. And so it could be a situation where the consultant covers it, even if the client is, you know, the consultant is going to then pay the client back in some way. If the client has to, I understand how they may have to enter their own credit card number to, you know, so that they are holding a URL, for example, for or a domain name, and it's going to renew with their credit card instead of your credit card. But if you can work out a way with your client to get that, you know, to just transfer the money to them if they've covered the cost. But you know, just because of the fact that if we pay that business directly, it could look too much like a grant. And we're not a grant making organization. And so it's just, they're trying to keep it clean on the finance side. Does that make sense?
Sorry, go ahead, Lydia.
Yeah, that makes sense. I will talk with my accountant and figure out how we can work that part out. All right,
Yeah.
thanks.
I was going to say a lot of our projects are 100% funded by Mountain Association. We have some that are split 75-25 because when it's a non-loan client and they apply at the beginning, we prefer that split in order to bring that additional money into the program and to help more clients. And so if it is a split, one thing I've done is to just make sure that that portion isn't split, if that makes sense. So the portion that goes toward that subscription can either count toward your 75%, or we work it into the scope of work some way so that the client isn't trying to split that bill with you. Or I think even in some cases we've paid for it. We've done a 75-25 split on the hours, and then we've 100% paid for the subscription if it was a reasonable cost, just to avoid some of the paperwork and confusion that can.
So I'll
And
say
just continue.
the takeaway from that is if you have questions like that, don't just submit them in the invoice, call ahead if you know that you're going to have an invoice that's got kind of some, you know, strange things like that that are not part of a standard invoice. Because we are obviously, Donna's new, I'm new, we're changing to this process. There's a lot of things that are kind of like, there was a way we could do it in the past, but because we're making all these changes, there may or may not be, you know, or maybe we can do things that are better or different. But anything like that, just communicate with us. We're happy to have conversations and figure out the best way to make it work for everyone.
Thanks, Bailey. All right, I'm going to go ahead and share a different screen here, which, let me see, what do we have here? This is the one that Dejan emailed folks. So this is the contract screen, which is really just inputs to generate a PDF of a contract that will then go into DocuSign that you'll be able to review all the details on, but will look very, very similar, if not identical to the one you already have. It'll just be in this system. So the reason Dejan sent those links to folks is they're custom links that pull in your information. So for this one, it's like I'm sending a custom link to Jimmy's marketing consultant. The system already knows who he is, what his phone number is, what his email is, what his address is. And so hopefully that's accurate when you click your link. If you go in and you're like, my business isn't actually titled that. Like, let's say Jason goes in and it says S Media, and he thinks, actually, this should be Symbiosis Media. he can type that in, and then it will correct the account record on the back end. So if your phone number's changed, whatever, type that in and it will correct what our file says. Second, those service rates that we were talking about earlier on the invoice, this is where they're coming from. So you're choosing the service type and the activity and how much you charge for it. You can add as many rates as you want. I mean, there may be a limit of like 10, but theoretically that should cover everybody. And then it has, our different categories. So find the one that's most appropriate for your services that you provide. And I would recommend, if you charge one rate for all your services, that's totally fine. You can do all activities, like this one is. But if that's not the case, then just be sure to check and make sure that you have a rate for coaching and a rate for prep work, etc. Because those will be the things that feed into the invoices, and those will be the rates that feed into that scope of work when you draft that scope of work later. Again, like we were talking about with supporting documents, that we do a completed W-9 form and resume for each contract. So it has a link to the W-9 form there. That you can go to the IRS website, fill it out, and then upload it here. Yeah.
Jimmy, on the resume, so we have multiple business owners or multiple employees.
Yeah.
Is this just one contact that you require a resume for?
Yeah, it's one contact. Whoever you would say is the most probably senior of the folks, then whoever does that, and then everyone else will be designated as like under that contract. But we can do that part on our end just by you letting us know, hey, this person's on this contract, this person's on this contract.
Thank you.
Yeah.
And Hannah, the same would apply to you or other consultants that have multiple folks working under you all. We just need one contract that's with the business. And then in the back end, we can add any other affiliates and make sure that they're associated with that contract.
Sounds
Thank
good.
you, Dejan. I'm assuming you've been watching the chat for us, so thank you so much, Dejan.
Yeah.
Appreciate that.
Me and Bailey have been holding it down for you.
Good. When you first log into a project, you'll see consultant guidelines. This just takes that information out of the contract that's already in there that says things like, you're going to learn how to use the portal. You're going to upload invoices regularly. You're going to not do any billable work until the contract is signed. Things that they may seem obvious, but they're just a reminder for you at the beginning of each project. It also has that waiver of liability that is the exact same as what we've used on every other project in probably the last 10 years, 5 years. But you'll see that at the beginning. Click and sign. And the client will get a very similar window when they start a project. All right, the client, you as the consultant create the scope of work. We've got a form for that. That will populate in, go back to the project portal, these tasks. So when it's time to submit a scope of work, you'll see this submit scope of work button, and you'll receive an email that says you have a new task in the portal. So anyways, those links take you to this page. You enter the scope of work in here, including all the information you're used to plugging in there. The only information you might not used to be plugging in is the initiate modules you plan to use with that project. I know if you've been with us for a while, you're probably familiar with our initiate platform. All our clients get access. We're actually going to start doing assessments with them and trying to plug them into initiate resources on the front end before they even get to you. I think that's been a component that's been missing. But we would still love for you all to assign them a couple of resources for their own learning. They have, and I'll share that with you later, but have had stellar feedback from clients about the project or about the portal that we've gotten. So they seem to really love it, and the hurdle is getting into it. So I saw that question from Lydia.
Yes, we are hoping.
Aye.
We are hoping
Thank
to
you, David.
add a just a resource. The resources are a little bit different. That's the one big difference between the dashboard, if you're familiar with that, and this platform is that the dashboard had the big, beautiful, press the initiate button. This will be not as beautiful. Press this Word document, download this, and then click the link is what we're hoping we can add to the resource page.
Yeah, yeah. The feedback I got was that we couldn't post a link here, only a document. So I want to verify that, but that's what we've been told. But anyways, you will be able to access it through, and the clients to access it through there. Yep. So once you submit the scope of work, I told you it goes through that approval process. The client will see something, basically this, without it being editable, and be able to approve it. This will also come through at the end. Remember, with the deliverables, right now we just have a checkbox that says, yes, I received all deliverables. But with the new Salesforce system, we're able to pull in that original scope of work so that the client and consultant can each review it and say, yes, this was promised at the beginning. This is what was delivered. I agree to all these things. So it's a little bit better in terms of the tracking and making sure that we're all on the same page.
One thing,
Dejan,
Jimmy, while you're still on this page, the scope of work, I'm not sure if you mentioned, but there is the per hour and the per project. I think that you may have, but just wanted to point that out for folks who may organize themselves per project. There is that option on that scope of work. And then from there, that will dictate how you all will do your invoicing.
Yes, thank you so much, Dejan. I'm glad you mentioned that. Yeah, so this person, so this is a previous scope of work that I submitted as a test. But you can see that I chose per hour and then the number of hours, and the number of hours then calculated on my hourly rate to create a project cost. There is that per project option. We don't encourage it. It's not there for us to encourage it, but it is there because for some projects, some very specific projects, it's necessary. So if I go back over to the screen where I'm entering in that information here, I could choose per project, and I could estimate a number of hours. This is really the most applicable for things like a photography project or videography. There are some folks who provide services that are just that rate. It doesn't actually make it easier, I will say, in the long run. Like, I think a lot of photographers, for example, they may say it's $1,000 for me to do these headshots and whatever else I need to do around your business. But then that's nice because they don't have to calculate the number of hours and submit them hourly and submit them monthly and all that. If you select per project, you still have to do all those things. You still have to, because our grant regulations, you still have to submit the monthly invoice and detail your hours and what was done with each of those hours. So it's really just there, like I said, as needed, because sometimes for some projects that has been needed. But if you choose it, let me see, it'll give you like that. Let me see, 90 hours. Let's say we're going to charge 5,000. So that'll tell you you're actually charging $55 an hour for this service. And then it'll break it down into these buckets, 75%, 25% split there. And again, that's just based on what we have on our page settings that will change before it gets to you if it needs to be 90-10 or 100% or something like that. Also for per project pricing, it does have to be in the a special contract also that applies specifically to that project. So we do have the opportunity to create a contract that's outside the normal contracting system, upload that into Salesforce. And so if you're doing per project, that would be in the written in the contract. And if you've done a special projects contract before, which some of you probably have, you'll be familiar that it also gets all three signatures right on that contract. Like the client signs it, we sign it, the scope of work is in it. Like it's a different format. So I know that's a lot of information, but I wanted to, as Dejan said, we need to share that with you so that when you see that, you're not confused by why it exists. Right. And I think those are the main components of this portal that you're going to use. The clients are going to review things, look at things, see different things from their side, such as their client agreement, and their own reminders and such. But any comments or questions?
Yes, Jimmy, I have some questions. So the previous process, we had to put working with customer or internal. So in part of our individual invoices, we all have our different invoicing systems that we use. So I want to make sure. So we're filling out this invoice item line by line, and then we also need to upload our individual invoice from our system that we're tracking our hours in. Do we still have to put working with client or for client on the invoice PDF that we're uploading?
That's a great question, and I hope to one day be able to answer that no. But right now, I just asked Casey in finance, as we're switching to this system, they want to make sure they continue to have all of those in the PDFs. But yes, I hope to get to a place where that's no longer required. But right now, we do need it.
As of now, we will, and I think someone just asked that exact question too. So we're going to track all of our time in our individual invoicing systems. We're going to submit it, and then we have to fill out each invoice item like line by line. So if we have, let's say, 50 line items because we have 50 different events for a project, we're manually typing 50 entries in your system.
I would hope that you don't have. Explain to me.
Okay, so yeah, sure. So I'll use our system for example, and I'm sure others use it. So if anyone's using an invoicing template and you're doing a time and material, you're tracking hourly. So I have employees go out there to our system. If they start to work on a project, they click the start button. When they're done working on the time, they hit stop. It auto calculates 1 hour. That's an individual time entry. If they go to lunch, they come back, they record another time entry. They start and stop. That's another hour. That's another line item. So for one day, they could have 2 line items. So I need to know, does each line item or individual item that you guys have to match our invoicing that we're uploading?
Yeah. I think, Jason, I'd like to take a look at your invoices specifically, because I know that this has been, with your particular system, there's been some trickiness with this in the past, being able to put the right things in and make it all.
Well, we got through that. We got through that where in the description, we can put it, but we're still, it's an automated process, right? We're tracking specific time. And if you're saying, hey, we just can do it a week at a time, I can report out it different. So if you can say, week
and that's
1,
something we can discuss in the invoicing section. Whenever we encourage the invoicing by the 15th of the month, we are saying that that's like the hard line. But let's say that it's easier for you to do a weekly or even a daily invoice or something along those lines. It may not be applicable for everybody who, may only have 4 line items in the month. But if you have, let's say, 7 or 8 by the end of the day or by the end of the week, I think it may make sense for you to.
Are we able to charge for our time from uploading these individual? Okay.
You can do that. Yeah. Just put that in there as like an admin time. Now, but I still would like to, after this call, have a little bit more conversation with you and with our finance department, Jason, because I'd like to see if there's any wiggle room, because I know it has been, particularly what I was saying was with your system, there has been an additional amount of labor that goes into that, and to see if we can get any wiggle room there. But that, as of now, the answer that I was given is the one that I had shared before, but we'll take a look at yours specifically.
Yeah.
Hannah, you had a question? Sorry.
I was saying, is there any reason we can't just aggregate all of the hours into one entry?
Yeah, so unfortunately, no. The requirements that we have stipulate that it has to show the date of service. So if you did a date of certain, you could aggregate for a day, right? If it was like 5 hours for the client on this day and 2 hours with the client on this day. But our grant requirements say, we need to know if it's the 14th of August or if it's the 15th of August and that there's a difference there. Yeah, Lydia.
Okay, sorry about this extra question, but so then in that case, it would be a daily submission with the way that this form's set up, where there's the service start date and service end date. And then on invoice item within this second box here, there's not a spot to put what day these actions were completed.
Yeah,
To put that line item.
it presumes that you have that date on your invoice.
Oh, okay.
Line item down.
Yeah, this is not for you to submit every single day. This is going to be the service start and end date. Like if you started working this client on July 3rd, and then you are going to be submitting this for the month of July, so you're ending it as July 31st or what have you. And then on your actual invoice would be your daily information that I did 3 hours this day, 2 hours that day, what have you. So this is going to be aggregating it together just to count those numbers. Just to count like your total hour usage. Yeah, hopefully that's helpful.
I'm so glad you said that, Bailey, because that maybe helps me understand a previous question better. So if you're lining out those items for the month, and I think this was Jason's question and Lydia was kind of following up on that too. Let's say that you did have 30 hours of business coaching one-on-one for the month, and you had 10 hours of research and analysis. As long as those are broken out by the day on your invoice, you could aggregate them in here. You don't need to say, I did this business coaching one-on-one there, and then I did this business coaching one-on-one here, because there's no date associated with this item.
Okay, that was my question. Thank you for clarifying. So I'm thinking if I had 10 line items, one for each day, I don't have to have 10 line items on here.
You can do the math yourself and plug it in here. Yes.
That was my question. Perfect.
Yeah. So if your system is auto-generating that super detailed invoice, that's fantastic. But you don't need to duplicate that here either. You can put all those together.
All right. Great.
Yeah. Okay. I'm glad we were able to get there. Thank you, Lydia, Bailey, for your questions and clarifications there. Cool. All right. Any other unrelated to that? Any other questions? All right. So let me go back to the slideshow and we can go into, let's see if I have anything else on Salesforce, but if not, we'll go into like our just general updates. Let's see. I'm sure I'll have something else. Oh, yes, of course. Okay. So we will get those contracts started. Like I said, you'll have those in your email. If you fill that out, we can get started on those and turning those into PDFs and getting those. I mean, it will automatically be logged in the system, but getting them on an approval process to send back to you for signature. And then following that, we do have, as I mentioned at the beginning, future events coming up. So we will do more training or just general get-together events in the future, whether that's every 3 months or 6 months. And we will have these drop-in dates. I've got these set aside on my calendar. There's a link there. We can probably post that link in the chat to join. Dejan, are you able to add that link to the chat?
Oh, yeah.
Thank you.
The join link.
The join link, yeah. And that's just a drop-in session for support. I have that for our staff too, in case they have questions or needs as we get started on this process. And we'll just take that as it comes and see if there's, right, if you don't start a project, if, Tim's finishing up X project and his new one doesn't start until October, we're not like hanging you out to dry at this point. We will do support, get you onboarded, schedule more time. If it's a year from now, right, you're going to need to review possibly and see what things look like. So we'll have follow-ups available. But yes, Bailey.
Yeah, I had one thing that I was going to ask. If you guys have the ability to check your email and make sure that that contract came through, go ahead and do that now, because that's a really good time for Dajon to be able to send that back through if for some reason it didn't. We had a few in the first session that for whatever reason it didn't go through. So check and make sure that you got that contract link, because then we can go ahead and get that to you right now instead of having to like track it down later.
And specifically check your spam folder, especially for folks that don't communicate with me. Yes, Bonin. Great minds think alike.
So Bailey, Jimmy, I wanted to thank you for this. Appreciate it. One of the things you guys mentioned in the beginning that sounds interesting to me is when you said get the consultants on one call.
Yep.
To me, I've already heard things that I'm interested in that other consultants have. For instance, I heard Mark state that he does video. We don't do video, but we have customers that need video work. And if we've already won, let's say, or have a relationship with a customer, it would be nice to know who does other stuff. I've heard Lydia mention that customers were signing up for hosting. Well, we offer web hosting and domain hosting. So I think there's an opportunity among consultants where we're not competing against each other, but we're still utilizing each other's strengths. So if I don't know how necessarily coordinate that, or how you guys want to coordinate that, or if you encourage it, but I'm already hearing things that I could utilize on this call.
Absolutely. And that makes it easier for us, is what I was going to say. If we already, like, I'm going to put this available consultants link in the chat there, but like if Lydia's doing a project and she needs photography and knows Jason does photography, then that just makes it easier, because we don't have to sign a new contract with a new photographer and get them onboarded, right? We already have you in the system. You know what you're doing. So.
Something that came up during the last session that we did of this, that we were like, we want to explore, that was, there was a lot of conversation between the consultants and about this, and they were kind of able to answer some questions for each other and ask questions that were relevant to everybody. So we want to start having opportunities for consultants to jump on together, to get to know each other, to go over topics, to review things that maybe they haven't had to access in Salesforce, or they haven't had to access and initiate, or whatever that is, so that we can kind of do some quick like refreshers on those things. This is a relatively new idea, very new idea. Let's not kid ourselves, it's a very new idea. So we don't have specifics on what that looks like, but something like a lunch and learn session quarterly, something like that is something that we've considered. We don't know. But this is the second time that those ideas have come to the surface during these conversations, and I think is worth exploring further. So yeah.
Great.
Yeah. And I think that'll help with the kind of whack-a-mole thing where like Jean brings up an issue and we think it's just related to Jean, but then we hear from Dominique that there's also this issue 2 months later. And it's like, we could have just resolved this as a team. So go ahead, Dijon.
Sorry about that. But I was also going to say that we've heard the need also expressed from our clients that want to be able to know what other services people have to offer as well, and what other ways that they can be connected to our other resources. So we definitely are hearing everybody say that it seems almost like the COVID jitters are gone and people are ready to mingle again. That has my extroverted spirit happy, because I like networking and I like talking and seeing people. So I'm hoping that we can create some of those spaces soon after all these transitions, because we've been like, ooh, on a roller coaster, but we're slowing down a little bit, hopefully, whenever we get transitioned onto Salesforce and everything works smoothly.
Yeah, and so we do appreciate your all's patience and flexibility with things like the staffing transitions and adapting and changing platforms and all that stuff. I think your all's feedback, if you remember, some of you, Jason, Lydia, others, when I first came on board, of what I was gathering feedback on the dashboard and gathering feedback on our systems. And so your all's feedback helped us get to this point. I think there's still room to grow. And so we appreciate your continued feedback, sharing with us about how things are working and how they're going. We're not out here pretending to have all the answers and know exactly how things should work, because we don't see things from your side. So we really appreciate you all and yeah, your continued efforts to help us improve too.
Thank you. And when do we start using this system?
So it's pretty much at the end of this week, we should be ready to go, but it'll just be when you get a new client.
That's the key. Okay.
Mhm.
Got it.
Yeah.
So what about a new
Yeah.
project with an existing client? Still
Same thing,
use the
yeah.
old system?
No, new project.
No.
Any new project is what I should have
Okay.
said.
Perfect.
Mhm.
Yeah, so you'll be onboarded, and we actually have one person who was on this that is a brand new consultant for us that is, he's going to be onboarded directly into this system and not even ever touch the other system. So if you have new projects that you've talked to the person, but you haven't completed scope of work or anything like that, we can start those in this system as well. So yeah.
And a
But our
related
application,
question
I was going
is
to
what Dejan was about to say. Go ahead.
I was just going to caveat that beautiful statement by just reminding folks our application isn't quite open to the general public yet.
Yeah.
However, folks that are working with client or clone, Jesus, the loan recipients, clones, evidently, then we don't have any basically lines of restriction. They get access to technical assistance through their loan. So if you're working with a loan client and starting new projects, that's why nothing has stopped there. But for the general admission and our general support services, we are not open yet. And we're hoping that once we get everybody, all the contracts and our consultants, kind of weeded out and consolidated, then we can open back up the application, and then our clients can see a list of consultants that are trained and ready and waiting, and then we can hopefully some other processes that we're trying to figure out are how can we basically identify the needs of our clients before they're handed to you. So what kind of information can we give to you all to help inform that technical assistance that you're providing so that they don't come to you needing a website and they really need a whole brand kit, so we're trying to get some of those processes streamlined before we reopen up the application. So
Yeah, one of the goals, one primary goal, as I mentioned at the beginning, was integration, and another was accuracy for doing this transition to Salesforce. But the other is there's a lot of automations that are in there that we can take advantage of, and hopefully some of that, especially with reminding. We spent a lot of time reminding. So for clients to approve this invoice or take a look at this scope of work, whatever. So we're hoping to gain efficiencies on our side where we can spend more time doing work with clients that's a little bit more in-depth and relational than it has been.
do you care to continue on to the next slide, and I'll go ahead and give my spiel about
Absolutely.
invoicing?
Yes.
As we kind of discussed, we are trying to kind of make sure everyone is under the same umbrella with the same information and knowledge. So we want to clarify what we mean by the 15th of the month that you're required to do invoicing. We want to kind of debunk the maybe notion that you need to submit your invoices on the 15th and realize or kind of emphasize that that's by the 15th. So let's say you're done working with your client on the 30th of the month and you know that you won't see them until the 20th of the following month. Go ahead and submit that invoice for that time. We're just asking for that previous month's, time or that month's time to be captured by the 15th of the month. If we're able to kind of stagger invoices, that helps our finance team. A couple of really cool things that you'll see in Salesforce is basically you'll be able to track where that invoice is. You'll be able to see if the client accepted or in reviewed, if Mountain Association reviewed, if it's at the finance team, and basically I think that there's an approved or a sent where finance basically will send their green light. So that way we will all have a little bit more transparency about where our invoices are and some clinks that have, especially I've noticed some of my consultants have experience with invoicing. Something that we're enforcing is something that is already spelled out in the contract, and that is that we ask for those invoices to be submitted within a timely manner. Mountain Association is not obligated to pay outside of that month's time, and we're really starting to make sure that we're staying within those guardrails, those lanes, because as funding becomes restricted and as all of these things are happening, we want to make sure that we have accuracy for our grant reports. We want to make sure that we are able to provide the information that we need in a timely manner. So we're just asking you all to just be aware of that, and just know that we may not be able to pay for invoices that are several months late. We will, of course, always have some gray area, and we're not really we're not hardlining. The only hard line really is that critical hard line, I will say, is whenever the fiscal year ends, and that is in the middle of the years. So that's that May time. So that's really the only time where we're like, okay, you absolutely cannot submit anything past that point. And like I said, this is all because of our funding. So thank you, Jordan, for asking about clients. I also have been having communications with our policies and procedures with our clients' responsiveness to invoices. Several of my consultants specifically hadn't gotten paid because I hadn't gotten that green light from the client, basically, and that kind of harbored our system. So we're going to start enforcing a 3-contact policy. Basically, we'll reach out 3 times and in various forms of in different ways of communication to try to reach that client. If by the 3rd time we haven't heard from them, we review the invoice and it is accurate to the contractual agreement, then we'll be able to move forward on that invoice. So if you have clients that kind of ghost in between, we are trying to initiate some policies so that that money doesn't just linger, and we're not just held up by their discretion. Some things I would really encourage is there is still that chatter function that is on Salesforce where you're able to put out little comments like how we did in the dashboard. And we also do emails. If you all are talking to your clients regularly, like I know you guys are, just let them know that you submit that invoice. Let them know or let me know, hey, I already submitted my invoice. Can you please just go in there and review that? It seems to be best received whenever the consultant themselves just lets that client know when that invoice is on there so that they can just go straight and receive that instead of waiting for my email or phone call. And they don't always answer me. So I get a little stuck sometimes. So I did want you all to know that we have been hearing you all, and we're trying to find ways that we can really navigate this in a way that is fair for both our consultants, our clients, as well as Mountain Association. So are there any questions about the invoices? Sorry, Bailey.
Oh, you're fine. The only thing I was going to add is, Jordan, it does not have to be approved by the client by the 15th. It has to be to us and submitted by the 15th. And then at that point, it becomes getting them to approve it as quick as possible so that we can go ahead and move it through the process. We want to obviously process these, but as long as we have it and we know it's coming, then we can prepare for that, to be able to budget. This has to come out for this month, which the grant period ends at this month and things like that. So as long as we have it by the 15th, we're okay. The other thing that I was going to say has left my brain. So I will think about it and it will come back. But yes, so it can be by from you by the 15th. Because then we can do it. Oh, I remember now. Okay. If you realize that you're getting close to the 15th and something comes up, a family thing, what have you, and you're really worried about it, as long as you communicate with us that there is an invoice coming, we can make some plans for that as well. I was talking to Casey, our CFO, and she said that there was a particular individual that ended up having an illness last year, right around that drop dead, critical end of year time. but he was able to communicate with us and we were able to kind of make that work. So again, that's going to be something on our end, but also on your end, we want to make communication more often and more consistent. So if these things do come up, we can at least plan for it and make sure that we've got everything in place to be able to accommodate you guys, and you guys can let us know things. So.
Yeah, I was just gonna say, and maybe Dejan said a little bit of this earlier, I'm not sure, but that last bullet point, the why, is not just because we like deadlines, but it's because those federal funding and private funding restrictions. So we've had examples, and I've learned a lot recently. Thank you, Bailey, as you've been learning about what that looks like, where the funding comes from. If it's a loan client and there we get SBA, Small Business Administration funding for it, and that's applicable up until a certain number of days after the service was provided, then it's important for us to get the invoice in and get it approved before that time is up. And then we have to take it. If that's not the case, we have to find another source that we have for those funds, but that takes it away from another project. So there's a lot of stuff that I don't see that Casey, again, our CFO, does on the back end to make that magic work. But we try to make her life easier and draw from the most efficient funding sources possible. All right, Dejan, did you want to say anything about this next slide? I know we talked about some of that earlier.
No, I will say it's all the same deliverables that we've asked for invoicing. The only thing that looks a little different on the Salesforce is that you'll notice that there will be 2 IRS rates for mileage. If you utilize that, there will be so just make sure that you're kind of paying attention whenever you process that mileage, if that's applicable to you. But I feel like outside of that, all of our other invoice items are the same.
And I think I can breeze through these next couple pretty easily too, which is just the reminder, which I already covered about initiate. But here's some quotes from our clients. I did a lot of digging when I first came in about that program too, in addition to the dashboard. So client feedback, very positive, but getting over the hurdle to get in. And that's why we're going to work with clients on there's a business self-assessment that now pops up for each new client login at Initiate. That helps guide them towards some resources and help them figure out, I need to know more about accounting, or I need to know more about marketing, or I needed to do a better job on my business plan. So it kind of helps guide them toward that. And I think that can be useful for our staff as we meet with clients before they come to you guys. Let's see. Go next here. So your next steps, just a summary. Send in that contract information form at the email or from your email. Once you send it in, there will be a link. It should be a link in the confirmation page that takes you to another form to fill out your profile for our consultant list that I posted in the chat. So basically you do the contract form and then you get that update your profile form. And then wait for your first project that's on the new portal. And at that point, once you do get that first project, that's when we activate your user for the portal. That way we don't keep people going who don't have active projects. So does that make sense? And we do have just a couple minutes. I know we handled Q&A during, which I liked because then it's relevant, but we do have a couple minutes for Q&A if there are additional questions. So any other thoughts or questions? Or I know we have very, very different levels of experience with our systems. So hopefully we did something that's a medium level, appropriate for all levels. But if you have more thoughts or questions for after this that you just want help with, we're happy to do that. Yeah.
I just realized something that I did in the last session that I did not do in this session. So I was going to do it really quick. I am pasting a bookings link for me. Since I am new, since I am trying to establish a relationship with all of you guys and things like that, if you have any questions specifically for me as I'm taking over Emily's projects, or just want to meet me, have some sort of introduction since I'm the new department head over this group, that is an excellent way to get on my schedule. It will only let you book time that I have available. So go ahead and make a copy of that, save it somewhere. So if you ever need me, that is a great way to go ahead and set some time, and we'll go ahead and meet and have a quick hello, this is me, this is what we do. And anytime you have any questions, I'm happy to help out with those as well. So
There's no other questions, then I would just say just a final encouragement to you all is that you are our representatives with our clients. You know, like a lot of people, when they say they did a project with Mountain Association, they think of who their consultant was. And so we just really appreciate how you all represent us and do such good work with our clients and help us move our mission forward. So thank you for what you do. Thank you for being on this call. Yes,
I
Cindy.
just have a kind of a sidebar question.
Mhm.
Dejan, did you attend my event about 3 years ago? That was you,
Yes,
wasn't
I
it?
did. Exactly. I've been telling people about you, but I haven't known exactly your name. But then I saw you here and I literally told them, I said, this is the ladies' conference that I was telling you all about that Emily took me to.
Yes.
Yeah. So
Okay.
yes, that
You
is
sat at
me.
the table with my mom and my sister.
Yes.
Yes. Okay. I thought that was you.
Yes, it's me.
Well, good to see you again.
Good seeing you too.
Right. Without further ado, I think it's our time to let you go, and we'll be done about 10 minutes early. So thank you all for your time today, and we'll see you soon.
Thank you.